Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various win for the Paradise Islands tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and every hole here that you're gonna see in this playthrough is played from the second tee. And you can get practice for tour number 7 for both the Oasis and the Kohong resorts. And if you're playing tour 10, you will experience the Oasis there as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also go to golfclashtommy.com for more Golf Clash related content, and also our new win chart tool that I highly recommend that you check out. You can also get the text guides already today by becoming a Patreon. Link to patreon.com/golfclashtommy is in the description down below. Follow the info box on the right hand side where you can find the elevation for the drive, for the second shot, and then also what type of ball that I would suggest you to play with, combined with what type of clubs I feel is going to be key clubs in how to crush this that specific hole. Make sure to comment in the comment section below if you do have any questions, and I will be there to help. So let's go to hole number 1. So let's take a look, and we're going to start by playing with the driver that gives us the most distance and also topspin, which in this case is going to be the extra mile. We're using 4.5 bar topspin and as much side spin to the right possible. And you can see that I'm aiming for the ball to bounce over the 2 bunkers on the right hand side. Maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, even though we're not entirely into max distance. Half a ball of curl is what we do need outside the right hand side of the adjustment ring. It's because we do obviously want to stay away from the left side here. As you can see there, with no curl we would be definitely rolling into the rough. From here we're going to have a short iron towards the pin, which in my opinion is going to be a very good opportunity. You may see as well in the info box on the right hand side that I'm having a Goliath as a suggestion here on hole number 1. And the reason we do have the Goliath here is due to the fact that, let's say we have a headwind or a strong crosswind, then we might not be able to reach as far as we do now, and therefore we're going to have to play with the Goliath instead of the Thorn or the Hornet. And obviously when it comes to long irons and short irons, you choose the short iron or the long iron that you feel the most comfortable with and that you feel gonna bring you the best possible chance making an eagle from distance. So when we did have 20% over adjustment for the drive, we're gonna have nothing for the second shot. So we play with no elevation here towards the pin. You can see that we are in very much maximum distance, but look at my ball guideline. It's very hard to find a consistent spot here before the green, so we need to look for that spot that gives us a decent consistency, so we're not going to have any issues approaching the pin. Now we are kind of somewhere in between. If we're just slightly off with our adjustment, we're gonna bounce way more right or way more left than we are intending to do. You can see when pulling back, the ball guideline is clearly showing that if we're going to bounce there, the ball is going to bounce more to the right, and that is what it's doing. You know, good speed coming in too much to the right, and that's going to be the key here for hole number 1, to find a spot that gives you a consistent first bounce and therefore a better chance to making an eagle. So let's take a look at this hole, where I do feel this is going to be a massive opportunity on making an hole in 1. We are either going to play with the sniper or we're going to play with the guardian. And here you can see that I'm lining up with 6.5 bar backspin, which is the maximum on a sniper 9 and a sniper 10. And then I'm letting the side spin there with 2.5 to be approximately 1 green square to the right of the pin. Once we are done with that, we're going to adjust for 20% over adjustment. And then finals piece, we're not gonna go with any curl whatsoever. You may wonder, what do you do if you do have, you know, if you don't have a sniper 10 or a sniper 9, then you play with the guardian. It's gonna be more difficult as you don't really have the ball guideline to rely on, but you're still going to have a very good opportunity making an hole in 1 here, as you do have the backspin. Backspin is the key, so either sniper 9 or sniper 10 or it's going to be the Guardian. We use the downhill slope on the fairway to have a more flat bounce instead of getting a high bounce if we aim further back as our opponent is doing, as you can see there on the ball guideline. In the end, good chance. So let's take a look, and we're going to start by using the driver with the most distance and topspin. A power is more important than topspin here in my opinion. We're going to go for a double bounce, and with that we're going to have to play with a power 3 ball, otherwise we're going to struggle having the distance, especially with a flat out crosswind or with some type of headwind component. Max topspin, and then as you can see there, I did stretch out to see where will my second bounce be, how much overpower do I need to go. So I adjust my rings with maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, push up my target to max, and then we're just going to take a regular shot here due to us having tailwind. If we would be having crosswind, we would need to use a little bit of overpower. Obviously, for those of you playing with a driver that has a more topspin and more distance, like an extra mile level 8 or an extra mile level 9, Thor's hammer level 5+, Apocalypse level 5+, then obviously you might need to stay away from overpower when it comes to crosswind. So here we're playing with the sniper level 9, second shot, 20% over adjustment. You can see that I list the sniper and the big dog in the information box on the right hand side. You may wonder why. It's because if we do have a headwind for the second shot, we do need to get some distance. Then the sniper, it's not fun to almost go max overpower. Now we also have a sniper level 9, which gives us a lot of distance. So to just summarize the second shot with how we should be thinking: if we do have a crosswind or a tailwind, we should be playing with the sniper. If we do, at least have it in sniper level 7. Otherwise, we're going to play with the big dog, or we're going to play with the big dog no matter what, if we do have any form of headwind component. 20% over adjustment. We aim for the left side of the green because it slopes down to the right. So let's take a look at hole number 4 here, and this par 3 is one of the tougher in the game. Not so much to get the birdie if we can pick the correct clubs, but making a hole-in-one here is going to be very difficult. There is, in my opinion, 2 ways that we're going to focus on playing this one. One is going to be to just bounce on the fairway like we are going to do when it's our turn, that with a rocket or with the Thor's hammer. Yes, I actually suggest the rocket, and many people most likely think that's weird, but the rocket does have backspin, and that we do need to play on that specific island. The other option is going to be to play for the rough bump, that is to the left side of the green, that comes approximately there, you know, a little bit more to the left, and that rough bump is unfortunately fairly glitchy, and that's why that is not my main option, because it often requires a perfect ball, perfect setup, perfect, just perfect adjustment overall, and therefore using a club with backspin is going to be my main option here. So the rocket or the Thor's hammer, which is those drivers that gives you the most backspin in general. If I would be having like a Thor's hammer level 6+, I would rather go with the Thor's hammer. Otherwise I would most likely lean towards going with the rocket. I would do one thing more, that is to back up and use the back left of that fairway pad, because where we are aiming at the moment, there is a little hump there, and that hump you're gonna notice that we're gonna hit, and this ball is going to be pushed way left. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment here, and a birdie is totally fine here. Do not expect an hole-in-one on this tough par 3, as you're gonna most likely see more pars than we're gonna see hole-in-ones on this hole. This par 4 is going to give us a good opportunity for the pin, at least in my opinion. We're going to play with this type of wind on the left hand side here, trying to gain as much distance as possible, and obviously trying to stay as close to the left hand side possible as well. Power 3 ball when we do have a headwind is going to be a must in my opinion, as otherwise we're going to have to go with in my opinion, too much overpower. Aiming for the left hand side there, using max left spin, and then obviously the 4.5 bar top spin as well that we do have on the extra mile level 7. You can see that I'm trying to use half a ball of curl here to the left, which in my opinion is a little bit too much. We only need a click of curl, because otherwise the thing's gonna happen is what happens now. Bounce on the fairway, just clipping the rough, and then roll out. And obviously that's a bummer, because otherwise we would gain more distance and we would be then closer to a minimum distance long iron instead of having like a medium / max distance of a long iron. But the thing that we do need to have in mind is we are at least not having the trees in our face, so we're still going to have a rough bump opportunity from distance, and that's kind of what matters. So rather clip the rough on the left and roll out than going too far right and have the trees in your face. If we do have a tailwind or we have a crosswind, like a flat crosswind, might could consider to play up to the top right side instead, using a club with more topspin. Obviously, that would require more topspin than 4.5 bars, because you do need to bounce over a more thick piece of rough. So have that in mind, but going right side will leave you with a short iron towards the pin instead of a long iron. Here we lined up using max right spin once again to take ourselves away from the trees in the center. So we're using max right spin so we can start further left. Ball guideline to the hole. Have in mind that with the Goliath in a low level like level 6 or even with a level 7, level 8, the ball guideline is not a maxed out ball guideline. So you need to leave the ball guideline a little bit short. Otherwise you're gonna come in as hot as we are doing now. And if we aren't, and if we are unlucky, that ball is just gonna go in the hole and jump out again because we come in too hot. 10% over adjustment for the drive, nothing for the second shot. The ball that you can play with is so wind dependent, but in the end, Quasar, Navigator, Titan, and you choose whatever ball you feel comfortable with. Long iron to the pin, most of the cases a short iron could be, as mentioned, if we play right hand side. A long iron, again, most of the cases. So let's take a look here for the par 5. We're going to play with a katana ball, max top spin, and as much side spin to the right possible. And here you can see we are in complete max distance, and the plan here for us is to gain as much distance possible. I would strongly recommend to play with a power 3 ball if you do have a crosswind or if you do have a headwind for the drive, so you do not have to go max overpower, or at least when you go max overpower you're not gonna struggle getting distance as you will be with a power 1 or a power 2 ball. 10% over adjustment, and then we're going to take our shot, trying to, as said, gain as much distance as possible. When we do have a tailwind, or for that matter a crosswind, and we play with at least a power 2 ball, we will be able to do well with the sniper for the second shot, and then that is the club that we are going to play with. If we do have a headwind from the start, I would suggest you to play with the big dog if you are not wanted to push the drive massively hard from the start, like meaning going max overpower and gamble a little bit. Obviously, if you do go max overpower, even in some headwind, you will be most likely able to reach with the sniper, and as always, using a sniper compared to a big dog is going to be a massive difference, and the sniper will obviously give you a much better chance than the big dog will from distance here. Ball guideline to the hole is at least what I would like us to do. Now we are a bit too far behind the pin, or like before the pin, and the ball will not be pushed as much as I believe it would be. Sure, now we do have a straight tailwind, so I need to, say the thing that I said again, but change to leave the ball guideline maybe 1 green square before the pin instead of like 2 to 3 that I'm doing here. No elevation whatsoever, max distance numbers here from this distance, and you can see that we're coming in very nicely. The only thing though, we need to make sure that the ball guideline isn't going as short as shown here on the video. So, yes, hole number 7, we are going to play with the sniper level 9 plus, or we're going to play with a long iron. I'm going to explain how I'm thinking in just a bit when it comes to the long iron. Katana ball is also needed. We need a lot of side spin to the left, and we are going to play medium distance with a 10% over adjustment. The beautiful part here when playing with a sniper and 10% is that we can use the method called 1-to-1, which means that, you know, we look at the wind and we see how strong the wind are, or, you know, how easy the wind are. We can take this as a reference. 7.5 miles per hour would mean that we would be playing this shot 7.5 rings. 6 bars of backspin, 5 bars of side spin to the left, and then you can see that we are lining up here with half of the blue ring inside the rough with the second bounce just before the fringe. I would, however, though, recommend that we maybe back up just a tiny little bit more, as we do have a tailwind and the extended ball guideline will be massive here when we are going to play. Now we are going to have to apply curl, and the curl here is going to be more than what we're using now. I would say it's going to be approximately 2 balls outside the adjustment ring to the left, and that would have come in towards the pin much better. If we do have a sniper level 8 below, when we don't have the backspin to play with, we have to bounce before the rough on the left side. So we bounce on the fairway into the rough and then roll down towards the pin. That is definitely going to be a way that I'm going to explore more, depending on what wind and what club we can play with in the tournament. But interesting nonetheless, and this hole is going to, you know, you're gonna see some hole-in-ones here, but, you know, I'm not that sure that it's going to be a consistent one. So, hole number 5, we are going to have a tailwind here. And when we do have a tailwind, we can play with the quarterback or we can play with the rock. If we do have a crosswind or we do have a headwind, we cannot play with the quarterback. I would stretch it to the rock in crosswind, but not in headwind at all. We do want to try to get as far down on the fairway possible without obviously getting stuck behind the trees on the left or the trees on the right. And, you know, obviously not rolling down into the sand or into the rough. 20% over adjustment is what we're gonna play on this hole here, and you can see here that I'm not trying to complicate anything, just trying to get it down there. You can go on the right hand side on the fairway, but that shot is going to be with a wood club towards the pin, and I honestly believe that's going to be more difficult than trying to dial the shot in here from the left side. You can see the right hand side, meaning over the rough there to the right before the water, and then it's going to be a sniper shot towards the pin from there. So we lay up 20% over adjustment. Our opponent's gonna do the same, I think. And then the second shot is going to be 40% extra. And here, obviously, it comes to be very important to maybe pull out a chart for that using the website tool, Wind Chart Creator, or if you're using any form of application. Making an over adjustment with 40% just by counting here, it's gonna be difficult. And that would, in many cases, be making you make a mistake. You maybe miscalculate and stuff like that. And that's always going to be a massive bummer. So our opponent gets down there, and now we can focus on our own shot. And now for the approach, it's 2 ways to play. One, we go for the rough bump with that thin strip of rough that is just before the fairway, before the green starts, or we are going to play just a normal bounce here on the fairway. It's definitely depending on what you feel comfortable with. I would honestly say that if the wind is aligned with the rough, let's say we have like a crosswind, then I would go for the rough bump, because then we have room for error. But with a straight tailwind or a headwind, if not, the problem will be in between clubs. The problem will definitely that we need to be absolutely spot on with our adjustment, or we are going to miss the rough and bounce on the fairway over into the sand, or we're going to go directly into the sand. Maximum distance with a 40% over adjustment, aiming for the pin. The ball comes in here nicely, and we just missed that one for an eagle. Tough one to get, no matter if you play left side like we did here, or you play right side as some other people will do as well. So we're gonna start with the drive here, and if we do have a tailwind or crosswind or headwind, we're gonna play with a driver that gives us distance, which is gonna be the extra mile in our case. max left spin, which in this scenario is 6 bars left spin with the katana, as we cannot use more due to us also having top spin. 4 bars top spin in any form of tailwind. If we do have a headwind or a crosswind, we need to use as much top spin as possible, because then obviously it's going to be much tougher. We aim for the second bounce to be on the left side of the second fairway, if that makes sense, because we do not want the ball to fall out to the right and roll into the rough. So we need to compensate for that by keeping ourselves on the left side. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, and then we're going to be around 350 yards. The thing that you can do here is to use a Titan or use a Kingmaker to give yourself even more distance, and that would be recommended from my end if you do play in a crosswind or even in a headwind, because it's not just the first shot that is going to be more helpful with a power 3 ball. If that's the case, that is also the second shot, because now when we do have a little tailwind, we are going to be able to cope with playing with the sniper and the katana now for the second shot. But headwind or crosswind, we're going to have to most likely overpower our sniper if we're going to have a chance for the albatross. And then you can do two ways. You know, you make sure you stick with a power 3 ball from the start, or you change your club from the sniper to the big dog, so you do have the distance if you are determined to not play with any power 3 balls whatsoever. And this is, you know, obviously a massive mistake from our opponent, and if you get into the rough or into the sand there, doesn't matter if you have tailwind or not, you will not be able to read for the green in 2. Second shot is honestly a decent opportunity. It's not a super consistent shot, but we're gonna be around the hole. Very important here to have in mind that when you play with a sniper here and you play in tailwind, the ball guideline is going to be longer than it shows. The reason for that is due to the slight extended ball guideline in tailwind, and also when it comes to headwind, we need to obviously have the ball guideline going past the pin pretty decent amount due to the fact that we get a compressed ball guideline. No elevation whatsoever for the second shot here, and you know, if you're gonna be lucky, you're gonna get this one in for an albatross, and that would be such an amazing thing to get for being the last hole in the tournament. But also obviously, if you play this one in tour play, getting an albatross here is most likely gonna result into a win 99 times out of 100. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this playthrough of Pro and Expert Division with various wins, which means that we don't know what win we're gonna have in the tournament. So these are pre-made videos for you to get the study going and also be prepared for the tournament. And make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. And don't forget to join our Discord. You do have the link to Discord in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching once again, and good luck in the tournament.